The purple grass swayed gently under twin suns as Dr. Alex Torres knelt beside the crystalline formation. His scanner beeped softly while recording the mineral composition of what the locals called singing stones. 3 months on Viridian Prime had taught him to move slowly around the native Kithara. Quick movements frightened them, a soft chime echoed in his mind. Not his own thought, but something else entirely. The telepathic touch felt warm and curious. Torres looked up to see Elder Nim approaching with her usual graceful steps. Her deer-like form moved with fluid precision across the uneven ground. The crystalline antlers on her head caught the sunlight and cast rainbow patterns on the purple grass. "Human friend studies the old stones again," came Nim's voice inside his head. The telepathic communication still amazed Torres even after months of practice. "The young ones wish to know why the stones sing?" Torres smiled and gestured toward his equipment. "I am trying to understand how they make music without any moving parts. Your people have lived with these stones for thousands of years, but never studied them scientifically." 2 smaller figures bounded over the hill behind Nim. Pip and Whisper raced each other through the grass with the endless energy that only young creatures possessed. Both cubs had smaller antler buds that would grow into full crystals when they reached adulthood. Their telepathic abilities were still developing, which meant they often projected their emotions without meaning to. Pure joy and excitement washed over Torres as the cubs approached. Pip reached him first and nuzzled against his leg with surprising trust. Whisper hung back slightly, but her curiosity leaked through the mental connection. Both cubs had been fascinated by Torres since his arrival. He was the first being they had encountered who could not communicate through mind touch naturally. "Strange one makes sounds with mouth," Whisper projected hesitantly. "How does thought become air vibrations?" Torres chuckled and knelt down to their level. "My species evolved differently. We use vocal cords to make sounds that carry meaning. Like this." He hummed a simple tune that made both cubs tilt their heads in wonder. Pip tried to copy the sound, but only managed a small chirping noise. His frustration rippled through the mental link until Torres reached out and patted his head gently. "It takes practice, little one. Your people make beautiful music with your crystals instead." The research station's communication system crackled to life from Torres's belt unit. "Dr. Torres, this is base camp. We are detecting unusual seismic activity in your sector. Recommend immediate return for safety evaluation." Torres frowned as he checked his geological sensors. The readings showed deep underground movement that had not been present in his earlier surveys. Viridian Prime was supposed to be geologically stable according to all the pre-mission reports. "Nim, I think we should move your family group away from this area," Torres said while studying the seismic data. "Something is moving deep underground and it might not be safe." The elder's mental presence grew concerned. "The old stories speak of things that sleep in the deep places. My grandmother's grandmother told tales of shadow hunters that came from below when the ground shook. Another tremor ran through the earth beneath their feet. This one was stronger and lasted several seconds. The singing stones changed their pitch as the vibrations passed through them." Both cubs pressed closer to Torres while projecting waves of fear and confusion. "We need to evacuate your settlement," Torres said firmly. "I can help coordinate the movement to higher ground where the soil is more stable." Nim nodded and began projecting wide-range telepathic messages to her extended family group. The Kithara communication network functioned like a biological internet with thoughts and emotions flowing between individuals across great distances. Within minutes, Torres could see other Kithara moving toward the evacuation point he had selected. The process took longer than expected because the Kithara moved at their own careful pace. Their peaceful nature meant they had never developed emergency protocols for rapid movement. Torres found himself growing increasingly anxious as the seismic readings continued to strengthen. "Elder Nim, your people are natural survivors," Torres said while watching the evacuation progress. "But you have never faced predators that hunt in organized groups, have you?" "The Kithara know only the way of growing things and singing to the crystals," Nim replied. We have no knowledge of hunting or violence. Such thoughts feel cold and sharp in our minds, Torres nodded grimly. His studies of Earth history had taught him that peaceful herbivorous species often fell prey to organized predators. Humanity had been both types throughout their evolution. They understood the mindset of hunters because they had been hunters themselves. As the twin suns began to set, Torres noticed that Pip and Whisper were no longer with the main group. His heart rate increased as he scanned the area around the evacuation point. The cubs had been playing near the edge of the gathering, but now they were nowhere to be seen. "Nim, where are your young ones?" Torres asked urgently. The elder's mental presence immediately shifted to panic. They were exploring the crystal formations near the old canyon. The children often wander when new things catch their attention. Torres checked his scanner and found the cubs of biosignatures moving deeper into the restricted zone where the seismic activity was strongest. The readings showed they were heading directly toward a narrow canyon system that would trap them if predators approached from the high ground. A deep howling sound echoed across the landscape from the direction of the canyon. The sound was unlike anything Torres had heard from the peaceful creatures of Viridian Prime. It carried notes of hunger and intelligence that made his survival instincts flare with warning signals. "That sound comes from the deep places," Nim projected with growing terror. "The shadow hunters have awakened." Underground tremors had disturbed the ancient sleep of creatures that evolution had perfected for killing. The Ravagers emerged from cavern systems that honeycombed the deep places of Viridian Prime, six-limbed bodies, covered in adaptive camouflage. Scales allowed them to blend seamlessly with their surroundings. Pack intelligence guided their movements with deadly precision. Torres sprinted toward the canyon, while his scanner tracked the cubs' biosignatures. Behind him the evacuation continued, but Nim could not keep pace with his desperate run. The Kithara were built for grace and endurance, not speed. Their long legs moved in measured steps that conserved energy over great distances. The howling sounds grew closer and more frequent. Torres recognized the pattern from his studies of Earth pack hunters. Multiple voices calling to coordinate positions and share information about prey locations. His scanner detected 7 distinct heat signatures moving through the canyon system with practiced efficiency. "Human friend must not enter the shadow hunter's domain." Nim's voice reached him through the telepathic link despite the growing distance between them. "They are death itself given form and hunger." Torres ignored the warning and pushed himself harder. His human physiology allowed for short bursts of intense activity that most species could not match. Adrenaline flooded his system as his body prepared for potential combat. The evolutionary response had kept his ancestors alive through countless dangerous encounters. The canyon entrance loomed ahead, carved from dark stone that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Torres could hear small voices echoing from deep within the rocky maze. Pip and Whisper were calling for help using their limited telepathic range. Their fear and confusion washed over him in waves of pure emotion. Torres activated his emergency beacon to mark his location for any rescue teams. The signal would help others find him if things went badly. His scientific equipment included several items that could serve as improvised weapons if necessary. The plasma torch designed for mineral sampling could deliver focused heat at close range. Moving deeper into the canyon, Torres found fresh scratches on the stone walls. 6 parallel grooves marked where razor-sharp claws had tested the rock for climbing possibilities. The Ravagers were mapping the terrain while they closed in on their trapped prey. A section of canyon wall suddenly shifted color and texture. What had appeared to be solid rock revealed itself as perfectly camouflaged hide when the creature moved. Torres found himself staring directly at one of the shadow hunters from less than 10 meters away. The Ravager stood 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Its 6 limbs provided incredible stability on the uneven canyon floor while its adaptive scales continued to shift colors. Intelligence gleamed in eyes that had evolved for hunting in complete darkness. This was no simple predator driven by instinct alone. Torres remained perfectly still while the creature studied him. Movement would trigger an immediate attack response. The Ravager's head tilted as it processed this unusual prey behavior. Most creatures either fled in panic or froze in terror when confronted by a shadow hunter. Slowly, the Ravager began circling Torres while keeping its attention focused on the human's eyes. It was testing for weakness and fear responses. Torres recognized the behavior pattern from Earth. Predators that relied on psychological intimidation before physical assault. The cubs' voices grew more desperate from deeper in the canyon. Their telepathic calls projected images of terror and helplessness. Torres could sense their exact location now. They had taken shelter in a small cave, but the space would not protect them for long. With careful precision, Torres reached for his plasma torch while maintaining eye contact with the circling Ravager. The creature's scales shifted to deeper shades as it prepared to attack. Its muscles bunched with coiled energy ready to unleash devastating force. Torres activated the torch and held it between himself and the predator. The bright plasma flame cast harsh shadows on the canyon walls. The Ravager's pupils contracted sharply in response to the sudden light. Creatures that hunted in darkness often had sensitivity to intense illumination. "Easy there, big fellow," Torres spoke in calm tones while backing slowly toward the cub's location. "I am not here to fight you. I just want to collect my young friends and leave." The Ravager did not understand human speech, but it recognized the confident tone. This prey was not behaving according to normal patterns. Instead of showing submission or fear, the strange bipedal creature was displaying territorial behaviors. A second howl echoed through the canyon from behind Torres. The pack was closing in from multiple directions. The Ravagers had learned to coordinate their hunts over millions of years of evolution. They would drive prey toward waiting ambush points rather than risk injury in direct confrontation. Torres reached the small cave where Pip and Whisper huddled together in terror. Both cubs projected waves of relief when they sensed his presence. Their telepathic abilities allowed them to feel his determination to protect them despite his own growing fear. "Stay close to me, little ones," Torres whispered while keeping his torch ready. "I am going to get you out of here safely." The canyon had become unnaturally quiet. Torres could no longer hear the pack's howling calls. Silence meant the Ravagers had completed their positioning and were ready to begin the final phase of their hunt. Soon they would emerge from concealment to eliminate their trapped prey. Torres estimated their chances of reaching the canyon entrance before the pack struck. The narrow passages would force the Ravagers to attack one at a time rather than using their full numbers. His plasma torch had enough power for perhaps a dozen bursts before the energy cell depleted. Movement caught his attention on the canyon rim high above. Dark shapes flowed like liquid shadow across the rocks. The Ravagers were taking elevated positions to prevent any escape attempts. Their pack intelligence had turned the entire canyon into a killing ground. "Human friend, we feel your brave heart," Whisper projected with touching trust. "But the shadow hunters have never failed to take their chosen prey." Torres smiled grimly while checking his equipment one final time. "Little one, my species has a saying, we are not trapped in here with them. They are trapped in here with us." 7 shadow hunters materialized from the canyon walls like nightmares given solid form. Their camouflage abilities made them nearly invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Each Ravager positioned itself with military precision to eliminate any possible escape route. The pack had executed this formation countless times with perfect success. Torres stepped forward to place himself directly between the predators and the cubs. His movement was deliberate and controlled rather than the panicked scrambling they expected from prey. Both Pip and Whisper pressed against his legs while projecting their terror through the telepathic link. The pack alpha emerged from the largest shadow, its scales rippled with dark patterns that seemed to absorb light from Torres's plasma torch. Battle scars marked its hide from years of successful hunts. This creature had killed hundreds of prey animals without ever meeting Sirius. Resistance. Torres met the alpha's gaze directly instead of looking away in submission. His human eyes locked onto the predators with unwavering intensity. Most prey species instinctively avoided eye contact with dominant predators. The behavior confused the Ravager's hunting algorithms. "That's right, big fellow," Torres said in a steady voice. "Look at me. I'm your problem now." The Alpha's head tilted as it processed this unprecedented response. Prey animals were supposed to cower and flee. They did not challenge pack leaders with direct eye contact and territorial posturing. The creature took a cautious step backward while reassessing the situation. Torres raised his arms above his head to make himself appear larger. The gesture was purely instinctual, drawing on millions of years of human evolution. His ancestors had used intimidation displays to drive off predators much larger than themselves. The technique worked because it projected confidence and strength. A low rumble escaped Torres's throat as he began to vocalize his defiance. The sound started as a growl but built into something more primal. His voice echoed off the canyon walls with surprising volume. The cubs had never heard a human make such sounds, and their fear transformed into amazement. The pack members shifted nervously as the strange noise continued. Their sensitive hearing picked up harmonic frequencies that seemed designed to cause discomfort. The sound triggered ancient genetic memories of other apex predators that competed for territory and resources. Torres reached into his equipment pack and withdrew several emergency flares. The bright chemical lights would burn for 15 minutes, each producing intense illumination. He activated 2 flares simultaneously and held them high above his head. Brilliant white light flooded the canyon, causing all 7 Ravagers to recoil in pain. Their eyes had adapted for hunting in near darkness. The sudden illumination felt like looking directly into a star. Several pack members retreated into deeper shadows while blinking rapidly. "How do you like that, you overgrown lizards?" Torres shouted while advancing toward the Alpha. "Not so tough when your prey fights back, are you?" The Alpha's confusion deepened as Torres continued his aggressive display. Every instinct told the creature that this bipedal animal should be fleeing. In terror, instead it was exhibiting dominant behaviors typically reserved for apex predators. The psychological warfare was disrupting the pack's coordinated attack strategy. Torres grabbed a handful of loose rocks and began hurling them with practiced accuracy. His human physiology allowed for precise throwing motions that few other species could match. The first stone struck the Alpha between its eyes, causing it to shake its head in surprise and anger. Additional rocks found their targets on sensitive areas like joints and facial features. Torres had played baseball during his university years. The skill translated perfectly to combat situations where accurate projectile delivery could mean the difference between survival and death. 2. Pack members attempted to flank Torres from opposite sides. He spun the plasma torch in a wide arc, creating a barrier of superheated gas. The first Ravager that entered the flame's range received a controlled burst across its leading limbs. The creature's agonized howl echoed through the canyon as it retreated with smoking wounds. "Who wants some more?" Torres roared while swinging the torch in threatening patterns. "Come on, you cowards. I have plenty for all of you." The cubs watched in amazement as their gentle human friend transformed into something they had never imagined possible. His earlier calm demeanor had been replaced by focused aggression that radiated from every movement. Through their telepathic senses, they could feel his absolute determination to protect them. The wounded pack members' retreat sent ripples of uncertainty through the group dynamic. Ravagers were accustomed to prey that died quickly and quietly. They had never encountered resistance that actually drew blood from pack members. The psychological impact was devastating to their confidence. Torres noticed the hesitation and pressed his advantage immediately. He advanced another step toward the Alpha while maintaining his aggressive posture. The plasma torch carved bright patterns in the air as he demonstrated his willingness to use it against any attacker. "What are you waiting for?" Torres challenged the pack leader directly. "I'm standing right here. Come and take me if you think you are strong enough." The Alpha's response was a mixture of confusion and growing rage. No prey animal had ever issued such a direct challenge to its authority. The creature's primitive brain struggled to categorize this unprecedented behavior pattern. "It's evolutionary," Programming had no reference point for prey that acted like predators. Behind, Torres the cubs began projecting waves of confidence and trust through their telepathic abilities. They could sense his protective intent and unwavering commitment to their safety. The emotional feedback strengthened his resolve and sharpened his focus on the immediate threat. Several pack members exchanged uncertain glances as their formation began to waver. The coordinated hunt was degenerating into chaos as their intended victim continued to defy every expectation. Torres recognized the moment of maximum vulnerability and prepared to exploit their confusion. The Ravager pack's hunting formation crumbled as individual members struggled to understand their prey's behavior. Millions of years of evolution had programmed them to expect fear and submission from creatures they cornered. Torres's aggressive display violated every natural law. They understood about predator and prey relationships. Torres began varying his tactics to maintain psychological pressure on the confused pack. He would advance aggressively toward one group of Ravagers, then suddenly shift direction to challenge others. His movements were unpredictable and seemed to follow no logical pattern. The pack members found themselves constantly repositioning to respond to threats that materialized and vanished without warning. "Look at you mighty hunters," Torres taunted while brandishing his plasma torch. 7 against 1, and you cannot even coordinate a simple attack. My grandmother could hunt better than this pack of amateurs. The verbal assault meant nothing to creatures that did not understand human language. However, the confident tone and mocking cadence triggered instinctive responses. Many Earth predators used vocalizations to establish dominance and territory. The Ravagers recognized the challenge even without comprehending the specific words. Torres threw another handful of rocks with devastating accuracy. Each stone found sensitive targets like eyes, ears, and joint connections. His human ancestry included persistence hunters who could track and harass large prey over vast distances. The ability to inflict cumulative damage through precise projectile attacks had helped early humans bring down creatures many times their size. 3 pack members bore fresh wounds from stone impacts and plasma burns. Their injuries were not life-threatening, but they disrupted the group's confidence. Apex predators expected to dominate encounters through overwhelming force. When prey fought back effectively, it created doubt about the pack's invincibility. The CUBS continued projecting their trust and admiration through telepathic channels. Their mental voices provided a constant stream of encouragement that strengthened Torres's resolve. He could feel their absolute faith in his ability to protect them despite the overwhelming odds. "Human friend fights like the old stories," Whisper projected with awe. "The legends speak of warriors who stood against the darkness when others could not." Torres smiled grimly while keeping his attention focused on the circling predators. "Little one, I am not a warrior. I am just someone who refuses to let bullies hurt my friends." The pack alpha grew increasingly frustrated with its subordinates' inability to execute a coordinated strike. Individual Ravagers kept hesitating at crucial moments when decisive action was required. The strange prey's unpredictable responses had disrupted their natural hunting rhythms. Torres recognized the alpha's growing agitation and decided to exploit it further. He began making sudden movements toward different pack members while shouting at maximum volume. The cacophony of noise echoed off canyon walls, creating confusing acoustic patterns. Sound-sensitive predators found the auditory assault deeply unsettling. 2. Younger pack members broke formation entirely and retreated to elevated positions on the canyon rim. Their departure left gaps in the encirclement that Torres immediately noticed. The pack's numerical advantage was eroding as individual members lost confidence in the group's strategy. "Running away already," Torres called after the retreating Ravagers. "I thought you were supposed to be the apex predators of this world. Looks like you are just oversized cowards to me." The remaining pack members shifted nervously as their formation continued to deteriorate. They had never encountered prey that used psychological warfare as effectively as physical resistance. Torres's combination of aggression and unpredictability created an atmosphere of uncertainty that neutralized their pack advantages. Torres activated his final emergency flare and hurled it directly at the Alpha's position. The brilliant chemical light struck the creature's chest and bounced away while still burning. Intense illumination continued to flood the immediate area, causing severe discomfort to the light-sensitive predators. The Alpha roared in frustration and pain, while backing away from the harsh radiance. Its camouflage abilities were useless under such bright conditions. The creature found itself exposed and vulnerable for the first time in its adult life. The psychological impact was devastating to its sense of dominance. "Not so invisible now, are you?" Torres advanced steadily while the Alpha retreated. "How does it feel to be the hunted instead of the hunter?" Additional pack members began showing signs of genuine uncertainty about continuing the attack. Their prey was demonstrating capabilities that defied their understanding of natural hierarchies. Creatures this small and apparently weak were not supposed to pose credible threats to apex predators. Torres could sense the pack's wavering, resolved through subtle changes in their body language and positioning. The key moment was approaching when he would need to force a decisive confrontation. Half measures would not be sufficient to drive off determined predators. He needed to demonstrate absolute dominance to break their hunting instincts permanently. The cubs pressed closer to his legs while projecting waves of complete trust through their telepathic abilities. Their faith in his protective capabilities had never wavered despite the overwhelming danger. Torres drew strength from their confidence and prepared for the final phase of the encounter. "Last chance to walk away," Torres announced while raising his plasma torch. "I am giving you one opportunity to leave peacefully before things get unpleasant." The pack Alpha's response was a snarl of pure rage. No prey animal had ever offered terms to a Ravager pack. The insult to its authority could not be tolerated regardless of the tactical situation. The creature prepared to stake everything on one final decisive assault that would restore proper order to the encounter. The pack Alpha's patience shattered like crystal struck by lightning. Its massive form launched forward with deadly intent while razor-sharp claws extended for the killing strike. 3 tons of muscle and bone accelerated toward Torres with the speed of a projectile weapon. The creature's roar shook loose rocks from the canyon walls. Torres had been studying the Alpha's movement patterns throughout their confrontation. He noticed the creature always telegraphed its attacks with subtle weight shifts before committing to a charge. This final assault followed the same predictable sequence that Torres had been waiting to exploit. At the last possible moment, Torres threw himself sideways while triggering his plasma torch at maximum intensity. The superheated beam caught the Alpha across its rear haunches as momentum carried the massive predator past its intended target. The smell of burned flesh filled the canyon air while the creature's agonized howl echoed endlessly. The wounded Alpha crashed into the canyon wall with bone-jarring impact before collapsing onto the rocky floor. Its rear legs twitched spasmodically as nerve damage from the plasma burn disrupted normal motor functions. The sight of their pack leader writhing in pain sent shock waves through the remaining Ravagers. "How do you like that, big fellow?" Torres stood over the fallen Alpha while keeping his weapon ready. "Not so tough when your prey knows how to fight back?" The psychological impact of seeing their leader defeated was devastating to pack morale. Ravagers had ruled Viridian Prime's ecosystem for millions of years without facing serious challenges. Their entire social structure was built around the assumption of absolute dominance over other species. Torres pressed his advantage by advancing aggressively toward the nearest pack member. His confident stride and unwavering gaze projected total control of the situation. The targeted Ravager retreated instinctively rather than risk sharing its leader's fate. "Who wants to be next?" Torres challenged while swinging his plasma torch in wide arcs. "I have plenty of energy left for anyone brave enough to try me." One by one, the remaining pack members began backing toward the canyon entrance. Their hunting formation had completely collapsed as individual survival instincts overrode group coordination. The strange bipedal creature had proven itself more dangerous than any prey they had ever encountered. Torres maintained his aggressive posture while herding the retreating predators away from the cubs' position. His movements were calculated to appear threatening without actually pursuing the fleeing ravagers. He wanted them gone, but not so terrified that they would return. Later, seeking revenge, the cubs watched in amazement as their gentle human friend dominated creatures that had haunted their species' nightmares for countless generations. Through their telepathic senses, they could feel his protective determination burning like a star in his mind. No force in the universe could move him from their defense. Shadow hunters flee from the strange one, Pip projected with wonder. The old stories never spoke of such things being possible. Torres smiled while keeping his attention focused on the last few retreating ravagers. Little one, sometimes the old stories need new chapters written by those brave enough to stand up for what matters. The pack alpha struggled to its feet while favoring its injured rear limbs. Its eyes met Torres's gaze one final time before the creature turned and limped toward the canyon exit. The look conveyed a mixture of pain, confusion, and grudging respect for an opponent that had fought beyond all expectations. Within minutes, the canyon fell silent except for the gentle crackling of dying flares. Torres allowed himself to relax slightly while checking his equipment for damage. The plasma torch still held enough charge for several more bursts if needed. His throwing stones lay scattered across the canyon floor like monuments to human ingenuity. Both cubs rushed to Torres and pressed against his legs while projecting waves of gratitude through their telepathic abilities. Their trust and affection washed over him like warm sunlight after a storm. The emotional connection reminded him why he had been willing to risk everything for their protection. "Are you hurt, human friend?" Whisper asked while examining him for injuries. "The shadow hunter's claws are filled with poison that kills slowly." Torres knelt down to reassure both cubs while conducting his own injury assessment. Several minor cuts marked his arms and legs, but nothing serious enough to require immediate medical attention. His human physiology would heal the superficial wounds within a few days. The sound of approaching voices echoed from the canyon entrance as the rescue party finally arrived. Nim led a group of adult Kithara who moved with unusual haste despite their naturally cautious temperament. Their telepathic calls projected relief and amazement at finding Torres and the cubs alive. The shadow hunters have never retreated from chosen prey, Nim projected while studying the scattered evidence of battle. How did one human accomplish what entire armies could not? Torres helped both cubs to their feet while gathering his scattered equipment. Elder Nim, my species learned long ago that sometimes you have to be willing to become the monster to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The rescue party escorted them back toward the evacuation site while the cubs excitedly shared their adventure through rapid telepathic bursts. Their mental voices painted vivid pictures of Torres's heroic stand against impossible odds. The story would become legend among their people within hours. As they walked, Torres noticed that word of the encounter was already spreading through the Kithara communication network. Adult members of the species looked at him with new understanding and respect. They had witnessed something unprecedented in their peaceful culture's history. The twin suns were setting behind distant mountains when they reached the temporary settlement. Torres sat quietly beside a crystalline formation while sharing his emergency rations with Pip and Whisper. The cubs had never tasted human food, but they seemed to enjoy the novel experience. "Human friend, will you stay with our people?" Pip asked. "Hopefully, the shadow hunters may return when you are gone." Torres looked out across the purple grasslands where Kithara families were rebuilding their disrupted lives. These gentle beings had achieved spaceflight and interstellar communication through cooperation and shared knowledge. They deserved protection from predators who would destroy their peaceful civilization. "I will stay as long as you need me, little ones," Torres promised while watching the stars emerge in Viridian Prime's darkening sky. "Someone has to keep the monsters away."